What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I Used to Be Pay, and today I'm back with another video. And make sure you leave a like, leave a subscribe. I'm trying to pay off this college tuition. Also, make sure you're on the lookout for the Paycheck Podcast every single Monday. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about the one thing that I think is missing from Lil Durk's career. And I also want to preface this entire video by saying I am a Durk fan. I know anytime you criticize anybody on the internet, people think you're just this big hater. I love Lil Durk's music. I'm a fan. I've gone to a concert of his. I literally have only two in defense of videos on this channel, and one of them is for Lil Durk. So I'm not a Lil Durk hater. I just think that his career is missing this one thing that would really complete everything. And that is, I don't think Lil Durk has a classic album or an album that will age as a classic album. For one, in my opinion, and for two, in terms of the consensus opinion. Lil Durk doesn't have a Get Rich or Die Trying or a Carter 3 or anything like that. Now, music is subjective, and I've always been on the wave of music is subjective, so don't get me wrong there. I'm not getting on here to tell you that there's one right answer to music. Like, if you don't think 7220 was a 7 out of 10, then you're wrong. Like, no, that's not how it works. Music is subjective, but there is such thing as a overall consensus, an average opinion on an album. And for Lil Durk, there is no album for him that has an overall consensus of this is a great album, this is a classic album, this is an all-time album, this is something that's going to age incredibly well. In 15 years, we're going to look back on this project as one of the best from that era. I just don't think Lil Durk has that. And of course, Lil Durk does have good projects. I'm not saying he just makes terrible projects all the time. He has good projects like some of the ones in the Sign to the Street series, Just Cause Y'all Waited Too. And he even has nostalgic projects like 300 Days, 300 Nights and others like that. But overall, he just doesn't have a project that, even if you're not the biggest fan of Durk, you can point to and be like, all right, that's the one, that's his crowning achievement, that's the best album he's ever had, and that's the album that everyone's gonna remember in 10 years. Like, he just doesn't really have that in his career. He just doesn't have an all-time great project that a lot of people would agree on, like a lot of his peers do. If you look through the list of his peers, Chief Keef has Finally Rich, Lil Baby has My Turn, which, you know, it's pretty early now, but down the line, I'm sure people will consider My Turn a classic. I'm sure it's going to age very well. G Herbo's Welcome to Phazoland. If you're not hip to that album, I definitely suggest you go check it out. That's going to be one that people are going to be talking about in years to come. NBA Youngboy has AI Youngboy 2 and Top. Like, all of these albums are pretty recent, but for the most part, these are probably going to age extremely well and age as classics. Future has DS2, Monster, Hendrix. Young Thug has Jeffrey, Slime Season, So Much Fun, Barter 6. The Migos have Culture. 21 Savage has I Am Greater Than I Was. He also has Savage Mode 1 and Savage Mode 2. Like, pretty much all of Lil Durk's peers or people that you would consider somewhat close to him have these classic albums or albums that will age as classics down the line. But Lil Durk just doesn't have one. And don't get me wrong, it's not like those guys are just levels above Lil Durk. Like, no, he's on their level in terms of his quality in general, but he just doesn't have that one project or a couple of projects that even people who don't really like Lil Durk can respect that project as one of the best ones of this era. And that's me just talking about consensus opinion. Now it's time to get to my personal opinion. And my personal opinion, Lil Durk does not have an album that's a 9 or a 10. Now, Lil Durk has good albums. Maybe you could even say great for some of them. But just overall, in my opinion, this is now strictly my opinion. This isn't talking about the average person or the average hip hop fan. He doesn't have that one project. He just really doesn't. Durk has never been a really big project artist to me. Durk has great singles and he does have good projects, but he's never really put it all the way together on one project where I can just look at it and be like, man, everything on here is fire. There's no misses, there's no skips, there's no boring songs. Like, this is all just heat from start to finish. He doesn't really have that in my opinion. He has like really good, like borderline great albums. Like, I would say Just Cause Y'all Waited Too is probably Durk's best album, but even still, that's not one that I can look to and be like, that's pretty much a flawless project. Maybe there's one miss. Like, I just don't really think that about any of Durk's projects, even the one that I think is his best. I would even say that Von's album, Welcome to O Block, has a much better chance of aging as a classic than pretty much any of Durk's albums. Now, again, that may be a hot take, but this is just my opinion. I'm just speaking solely off opinion and what I've seen. Actually, the consensus thing isn't really an opinion, but my opinion on his albums, I just don't think Durk is a great project artist. 7220 was pretty solid. Almost Healed was okay. He just never has really fully put it together on a project, in my opinion, which is a shame because I do think Durk is a great artist and he just really kind of hasn't yet. And Durk has had a pretty storied career over the last 10 years, even if, you know, in the beginning of his career, he was getting hated on a lot and people weren't really rocking with him. The way he's turned his career around after that and how he's put everything kind of together in a nice little bow and made himself one of the best and most memorable rappers of this era. Like, he will go down as one of the most memorable trap artists of this era. It's great. He just doesn't have that one shiny piece to his discography that even if you're not really a fan of Durk, even if you don't listen to his music, you can say, oh, I've heard of that album. Everyone loves this album. I don't really know why, but everyone loves this album. Even if you've never heard of 50 Cent, or not if you've never heard of him, but even if you don't really know 50 Cent's music or you don't really listen to him, or maybe he was too far before your time, you could even say, oh, well, I know Get Rich or Die Trying. Like, I know that's a classic album. I know a lot of people love that album. My dad loves that album. My uncle, like, those pieces of music exist for people, even to where, like, even if you don't really listen to them, you know that that piece of music is highly respected. And I just don't think Durk really has that. Durk, in my opinion, is a great artist, and he's building a very solid legacy out in his career. But just when you look back on Lil Durk in 20 years, I don't know if he's going to have one project where you go, hey, man, that one was the truth. Like, I don't care what nobody says about any of the other ones. We can argue about any other project. I'm not going to argue about this one because it speaks for itself. I don't think he really has that. So in 20 years, when we talk about Lil Durk and we compare him to his peers, I just don't think he's going to be able to have that in his back pocket. I don't think he's going to have that on his resume that, man, he has a classic album. But again, this is just my opinion. And also, remember, I am a Durk fan. I love Lil Durk's music. Like, I'm not saying this to hate on him and say he's trash. I just don't think he has a classic album or an album that will age in a way that we'll look at it as a classic, or an album that's a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Like, he just doesn't really have that, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. I just don't think he has one album that the whole hip-hop world can kind of look at, or at least a majority of the hip-hop world can look at and say, that project is great. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe everyone loves every single project Durk has dropped in. Every single project is a classic. Now, again, there's obviously your opinion that you can hold. My opinion is he doesn't have a classic album. But also, when I'm talking about the consensus, that's something that can be more arguable in terms of like how the hip hop landscape looks at Lil Durk's projects. So, for one, you could argue, in your opinion, what album, in your opinion, is a classic from Lil Durk? But also, do you think the consensus has a Lil Durk classic? Those are two different things. Your opinion, and then also what like the overall consensus is in hip hop. So let me know down below if I'm wrong in the comments. Everyone loves just because y'all waited the first one, they think it's a classic. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's just my opinion. If you like this video, if you made it this far, please leave a like, leave a subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. Again, I'm not a Lil Durk hater. I just think he's missing a classic album in his career. But have a good day. Be safe. Be blessed. Peace.